Cultural Anthropology Review. One of the key challenges that modern advocates of history face are trying to justify the importance of history in the modern world. Most people are concerned with satisfying the current problems while thinking of how to preempt future challenges. For ages, sex and gender have been viewed as separate and distinct in different cultures. The way genetics shows out in both women and men is also independent. Lewis 23. Men tend to be taller, more muscular, and have wide shoulders and narrow pelvis, as opposed to women with wider pelvis, more delicate built and a slightly higher body fat percentage to compensate for the pregnancy period when the fetus feeds on the woman's inner reserves. Sexual dimorphism is explained by the laws of nature and the so-called natural selection. Males, with their stronger builds, are better equipped to serve as the caretakers and heavy lifters, while females with their wide pelvis give birth to healthy children with minimum complications. Lewis 24. In this piece we will explore the cultural characteristics unique to the males and females and how they affect their essence and life. The article establishes that roles of the genders are mostly the same in the majority of modern cultures. Women are expected to remain at home, raise children, care for their family, and be the homemaker. Men, in turn, are expected to provide for the family, protect their progeny and wife, and be the guardian. In addition, the article further establishes that in most cultures men are viewed as role models and inspiration and thus are expected to be leaders. Men also are much likely to gain power and influence than their female counterparts. The author then speaks of the Kalyali, a farmer culture that used to inhabit tropical rainforests in the southern highlands province. Lewis 25. The small villages would do all the work together in unison to accomplish daily chores and tasks. The women would garden, care for the pigs, hunt small game animals, and care for the children. The men were responsible for the more strenuous tasks, just like in most other cultures, such as chopping and gathering wood, building, and planting. The village did not believe in a high authority, like a government. Instead, they let the elders to be in charge since they were the most knowledgeable. Lewis 26. They believed and based their life on supernatural spirits and taboos, which served as punishment enough. The citizens would behave in fear of the spirits, so order was maintained. Death was believed to be a result of witchcraft, and once the person is killed, they are put in a hammock for viewing until being transported to a burial ground in which the bodies decompose. Family is critical to the tribe. The extended family is gathered together and referred to as grandparents and grandchildren, while the more immediate family, i.e. siblings and cousins, are the most important. Lewis 26. The Kalyali can differentiate between several bird types just by listening to their singing and recognize them as if they are invisible to the eye but visible through sound and emotions. Songs are sung of sorrow and hardships and correspond to a different bird calls. Lewis 27. The Gizero is the most important ceremony performed, in which dancers practice and perform elaborate dances for large events in the hope of overwhelming the listeners with powerful emotions. When the crowd is flooded with emotions, they intentionally hurt the dancers by stabbing them in the neck and burning them to release anger. However, the article has failed to discuss whether the constantly changing world would affect the gender roles. Since women are continually being empowered in the society following various efforts by institutions all over the world, the questions arise whether eventually they will have the same ranking and leadership positions as men? Or will people always view women as meek individuals or as mentally sharp as men? One theory of why women have a lower status is because they do not contribute to the society as much as men do. But in today's society, women have careers, cook, clean, and tend to the children. So shouldn't they be gaining the same amount of power that men have? Even more surprising than the lack of control for women is the amount of cultures that deem extramarital sex as acceptable. I think that the article has failed to discuss its points efficiently. It has majored its argument on the practices of a single community, assuming that the practices are identical to others. We are one of the few cultures that stands by the point that extramarital sex is wrong and should be looked down upon. Lewis 25. However, some cultures have allowed their men to engage in extramarital sex and wife inheritance. It has also failed to acknowledge the fact that even though women are gaining more power throughout time, they are still not looked upon as equals to men. Will there ever be a time when we look back at history and reflect how the newfound leaders, women, were once in lower power? As a result, the points raised by the article are shallow and not completely convincing and recommendable. In conclusion, anthropology is mainly a branch of science that primarily focuses on humans. Its common aim is to describe the human beings, explaining them by their biological and their cultural characteristics of the population from which they are distributed. Moreover, they also emphasize the main differences, in addition to the variations of the people. The idea of sex, in addition to that of culture, on the other hand, has received a particular attention even though their meanings are still subjected to debate.